Alright, what's up guys? Had to get this video out there. It's 2024 NFL mock draft. Super early here. So basically I took into consideration of how the 2023 season is gonna go for every team. I'm sure a lot of these predictions are gonna be controversial, but that's okay. Uh so basically I personally think this is one of the super exciting classes, one of the best ones in the last 3-5 years. We're not gonna go with any trades, although it's tempting knowing like a lot of what's going on right now. So I'm gonna condense some of the decisions I made to have the video reasonable length. I'll explain the pick and the spot that I put the team in. All right, so we're gonna start here with the Commanders. I have the Commanders going with Caleb Williams, and I don't think that that's a very controversial pick. The first pick in the 2024 draft is almost guaranteed to be Caleb Williams. Basically, there's a lot of teams looking at tanking for him, or at least a lot of teams maybe should. Yeah, the Commanders don't have a good QB situation. They have bad ownership, and Ron Rivera is, iffy right now. All right, next up I got the Las Vegas Raiders. So they just got rid of Derek Carr, so we're not really sure what they're gonna do. They could trade up for Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or even Will Levis, but I don't have them going for a QB. It's gonna cost a lot for them to trade up, so I say they wait until 2024, and then this class is pretty stacked depending on how the season goes, but I have them going with Drake May. Like I said, this could be one of the most stacked QB classes in over a decade if you think about it, and I'll get to that later. So the Raiders are going to need a QB. So Josh McDaniel hasn't proven himself yet, so that's why they could be this high. So yeah, if they're up this high, they're probably gonna go QB. Alright, so next up I have the Cardinals, and I know they have the 3 pick this year, but they just signed a new GM. They looking at trading Hopkins, and Cliff is gone, so they're kind of in a bad situation right now. I know they're looking at signing Sean Payton. He's got an interview this Thursday, which I believe is the 26th of January. And I have them going with Brock Bowers. So if they trade Hopkins, they're going to need another big target like that. And Bowers is obviously a generational talent. Has the potential to be as good as Travis Kelce or better. He's been balling in college since his freshman year, and will continue to do so until he leaves college, and will do so in the NFL. I was thinking about putting Marvin Harrison here, but they're pretty solid at wide receiver. If they get rid of Hopkins, they could look at it, but so we'll see what happens with the coaching situation. But if it doesn't seem to be in a good situation, I can see them being this high again. All right, so this one kind of hurts, but it's my team, the Saints. They have a situation right now. Like, who knows how Denzel is going to do next year. They don't have a first round pick. They don't have a QB. A lot of their team is iffy. They're in a bad cap situation. And they could trade Sean Payton, which could move them up this high if they're not that bad. So that'd mean a trade up. But I have them going with Quinn Ewers. He scored a 1 as a recruit in high school, which is super rare. He has super high potential. For the most part, his season was looking pretty good. He makes it look really easy. However, some of the balls he threw flew on him, and he also had a ton of drops. Like I said, no first this year and cap issues. And who knows what the Saints are going to get for Sean Payton, but that could be really good. They could get 2 firsts, or they could get 1 first. But anyways, it could give them the capital to be able to trade up in this draft, which would mean a lot more than the 2023 draft. But yeah, I really like Quinn Ewers. I'm hoping he has a good year. I think he just got Adonis Mitchell for him as a receiver. He's going to have to beat out Arch Manning, which would be interesting. But yeah, I like him so far. I did end up watching a lot of Texas games too, so I actually watched a ton of tape on Ewers. So that is my very, very slight credibility. All right, next up I have the Los Angeles Rams taking JT Tuimoloau, and JT received 9989 as a high school recruit. And that's on 247 Sports. That's my source that I'm getting these from. And these are important because these players have barely played in college, so it kind of matters a little bit, but it's just nice to know. But basically, he had potentially the best game as a D ever in college, in the OSU versus Penn State game. So he has tons of potential, and he's someone definitely to watch for the 2023 season. And like I said, the Rams are at the 5th position here. They're keeping Sean McVay for a few years. Now, it is slightly concerning that they won the Super Bowl and then they went and had the season they did in 2022. So we'll see what happens, but there's a chance they could be this high in the draft. At 6, I have the Panthers. I have them taking Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think this is the lowest Harrison's going to go. He's showed what he can do this past season. He's a monster. He definitely has potential to be better than his dad. And then the Panthers, surprisingly with Steve Wilkes, have been a lot better at the end of the season than I thought they would be. But if they don't get that QB situation figured out, I could see them being in the top 10 again. Like, I just don't see Sam Darnold taking them to the playoffs or near the playoffs. If they don't end up getting CJ or Bryce, I don't believe they're going to be a good enough team. So we'll see what happens. All right, at 7, I have the Bears going with Joe Alt. And the Bears have a ton of cap space in the 2023 offseason. You know, Joe Alt seems to be the type of tackle that could be a franchise tackle, and Justin Fields needs that. Like, he needs protection. Going with that, even if they go with that in 2023, they could do it in 2024 too. They have too high of a pick in 2023 to go that way. They're probably going to go trade down and then maybe go Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, which they need that too. But Joe Alt's 6'7", 283 right now, and he's probably going to get bigger. He's a beast at Notre Dame already, and like I said, he could be a franchise tackle. And this would be huge for Justin Fields, and I have hope in Justin Fields that if he gets a better offensive line, he can show his throwing capabilities. So, all right, next up I have the Seattle Seahawks. Although they did make the playoffs this year, and I'm happy for Geno Smith, I just don't see them going that far again with Geno Smith. So, and last offseason they traded or they got rid of Bobby Wagner. They actually cut him. So they're still kind of looking for a linebacker to solidify their defense. Their defense has some serious potential, especially with that Broncos pick. They could go with one of the top defensive players in this year's draft. So therefore, I think if they can figure out their QB situation, and maybe that's Geno Smith, maybe I'm wrong, then they could go Jeremiah Trotter Jr. here. And that would solidify their linebacker position, especially since Brooks might be out for some of the season because he got injured. But yeah, this would be a good pick to solidify their defense. Next up, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there's been a lot of rumors that Brady is not going to be with the team in 2023, and I believe that, especially with the way things have been going. Brady probably should leave, especially after last season. And in that case, they're going to need a QB. There's no way Kyle Trask is doing the job, not even being a hater. He just seems to be more of a backup. But yeah, they need a QB. And this is where I get to explain how good this quarterback class could be. And obviously, this is barring the 2023 college football season. All right, so I'm not going to go into super detailed explanations of these players just to save time. But the first QB I got here is Shadir Sanders, which is Deion Sanders' son. And he's going to be the QB at Colorado. And Dion's done an amazing job at getting a good team to transfer there and recruit players there. So they're looking good. He could have a Heisman season. There's been talk about that, but we'll see. Next up, I have Jackson Dart, who has to beat out Walker Howard and Sanders from Oklahoma State, which is interesting. But Jackson Dart has the potential to excel this year and show that he could be a first-round type quarterback. Next up, I have Bo Nix, who showed what he could do last year. He said he's returning. You know, he balled out, so we'll see what he could do. But the next person to have is Jalen Milroe, who filled in for Bryce Young while he was injured with his shoulder injury, I believe. But Milroe's looked pretty good, and he was young, so he has potential to show even more of what he can do in the 2023 season. Next up, I have Jordan Travis, and he's playing with FSU. He balled out ever since the first game against I think it was LSU, when they lost off of that extra point at the end. But he's been balling out, and FSU has a really solid team this year, so he could push himself into the first round talk. Next up, I got another Bama boy, and that's Kool-Aid Mekinstry going to the New York Giants. And the Giants are probably going to re-sign Daniel Jones, especially after the year he's had. He's low-key underrated. The Giants could go in different directions here, and obviously every one of these picks I've been talking about depends on what they do in the offseason of 23 and in the draft. But this is off of like what they could do and my predictions, so it's not going to be perfect. They could go wide receiver 2, but their secondary is kind of lacking. They have, Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, Fabian Moreau. They need a cornerback, really, and Mekinstry has been good since his freshman year, and he has the threat of being a returner. In this draft, it's probably going to be either him or Denzel Burke. But I think they need some cornerback help. Mekinstry takes the edge here with his capability to return. I have the Atlanta Falcons going with the second O-line off the board. And although they're missing a quarterback, I feel like they'll address that. Bryce Foster out of Texas A&M is he's looking like a dog so far. And if you pair him up with Chris Lindstrom, they could have a very solid offensive line. Like I said, I don't think they have a high enough pick to go QB in 2023. Raider could be the answer, but he has yet to prove it. And this is a safe pick. Who knows if this is going to be a credible pick by the time this draft comes around. And their offense, if you look at it, is waiting to explode. Like, they have Drake London, who low-key had an underrated season. Like, he was pretty good. It's just a lot of the other receivers in the rookie class also balled out. They have Kyle Pitts, obviously, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, who was super underrated. So they definitely have some things to look forward to here, and picking an offensive lineman would be great. All right, this is one of my favorite picks in this draft, and this is the Colts going with Emeka Egbuka. And I had them going with CJ Stroud in the 2023 draft. So if they pair these two together, that'd be amazing. The Colts have the 4th pick in the 2023 draft, which is high enough to get CJ Stroud, especially with the way Will Levis is rising. He looks a lot like Josh Allen. I think that's some of the hype. But yeah, if they pair these two together, it could be dangerous. Just look at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. There's a few other examples. Obviously, Marvin Harrison would be the first pick here, but I think he's going to go way higher than 12, especially if he has anywhere near of a season close to what he had in 2022. I'm not sure what the Colts are doing at quarterback. They might go Jeff Saturday again, and if they do, I do feel like they'll be at this point or even higher. I also think that it might take a year or two for Stroud and whatever coach they decide to go with to find chemistry, but I do believe in CJ Stroud. I feel like he has the potential to take them to Super Bowls. All right, I got the Houston Texans at 13. I have them going Bryce Young in 2023. I really like Bryce Young. He's the only thing people knock him on is that he's short, and so is Drew Brees. I'm a Saints fan. Maybe I'm biased in that, but I believe in him, but I also think it's going to take him a few years, depending on the coach that he has, to make the Texans a playoff team. So I have the Texans going with interior linemen here. And this class has two potentially special ones in Maason Smith and Michael Hall Jr. Maason Smith's on LSU and Michael Hall Jr. is on OSU. Obviously, Maason Smith seemed to have a potential to have a good year, but then he tore his ACL in the first game, which was tragic. And then Michael Hall Jr. was playing really well, and then he seemed to like see less playing time. I'm not sure why, but he still definitely has the possibility to have an amazing 2023 season. So we'll see what that does for him. All right, second to last pick in part one of the 2024 NFL draft. I have the Denver Broncos. A lot of these teams that I have in the top 15 are teams that could trade for Sean Payton, so this pick might not be here. Which means they also would probably not be here or this high anyway, with what Sean Payton could do to turn them around. But yeah, I have the Broncos going with Dallas Turner. You know, Will Anderson was opposite of Dallas Turner in 2023, so Dallas Turner's going to have the chance to show what he can do by himself. And Alabama has a ton of talent, so he's still going to have players on the other side of him. He showed promising skills. The Broncos traded away Bradley Chubb, and they need a pass rusher, so Dallas Turner would be a good pick here. All right, last pick in the first part, I have the Tennessee Titans going with Denzel Burke. The Titans are going to have Derrick Henry for his entire career, and he's obviously a monster. And I also believe they're going to have Mike Vrabel for a while, so they're never going to be terrible, in my opinion. But their secondary is lacking. Their first-round pick, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, Caleb Farley, hasn't been really working out. Christian Fulton from LSU honestly has played better as a second rounder for him. And Denzel Burke I have as the second best corner in this draft so far. And he could turn that secondary around depending on how his season goes. Alright, so that's it for the first part. There's a ton of good players in the second part that could make it up in the top 15 here. Obviously, we won't know until the 2023 season happens, but definitely watch that because there's a lot more exciting players that we won't know about until the season comes in that part. So yeah, go watch that.